Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And on to today's order of business, capturing headlines across the hockey media world in the past few days. While our beloved New Jersey Devils got heavier, edgier, more violent this offseason, one of our bitter rivals is also looking to do the same exact thing, and that man goes by the name of Matt Rempe. Folks, we all know the Rempire State Building, our new arch nemesis, arch rival. We saw it last season, all the unfortunate incidents that led up to the final showdown in the beautiful line brawl game in which Curtis McDermott fed Mr. Rempe tons of punches. And while Rangers fans delusionally claimed a victory for Rempe there, the hockey world at large has spoken. Rempe 100% lost the fight. And it is what it is. Great bout, tough kid, puts it all on the line. And I think every fan across the league hopes and wishes they had a guy like that on their team. He is exciting. I do think he has reinvigorated some of that old-time hockey in the sport. A lot of people are firmly against it. Not me, your boy Ace, old school fan. Love the Neanderthal hockey. Give me the bone-crunching hits. Give me the fisticuffs. Give it to me all, please, and thank you. And this is a very interesting kind of development in the rivalry, I would say. You know, we got McDermott pretty much as a Rempe pest control measure after he roughed up our entire team, knocked Bastian out of the game, and then dummied Siegenthaler real quick. We got the insurance policy. We got Curtis McDermott from the Avalanche. He came over. Obviously, Rempe was running scared that whole next matchup. And then finally, that late season game at MSG, we finally got the showdown. Rempe finally answered the bell. We saw an unbelievable bout at center ice, and then we saw the line brawl. It was an absolutely beautiful thing to witness. The New Jersey Devils finally growing a backbone, finally standing up for one another, and going into war as a team. Absolutely love to see it. One of the only highlights in an otherwise disappointing season. But for me, it's, Stadium Series was the very pinnacle highlight of the season, and then a little bit below that was the line brawl. Absolutely love to see that sort of stuff. And so now, Matt Rempe is training with former NHL heavyweight enforcer George Laraque. And if you guys don't know, younger fans, this man was an absolute killer in the late 90s, early 2000s in the league. Heavyweight enforcer, scary, scary man. Check out some of his fights on YouTube. This man was an absolute beast, and not a lot of guys wanted to fight him. And that was one of the, in my opinion, great kind of heavyweight eras of NHL. That late 90s, mid-90s, early 2000s, we had some really, really heavy-fisted guys that were willing to go to war on that ice surface. But Rempe is now training in the offseason, working and honing his fighting skills with George Laraque. Here you see Laraque doing some of his finest work back in the day when he was a player. Absolute scary man. And now these photos come out. Rempe and Laraque are training for NHL fighting. And a lot of people have kind of, ripped this or made fun of the kid. I don't understand it personally. Fighting is a part of hockey. I think it is not going anywhere anytime soon. While it has been severely de-emphasized in the past, 10 years or so, maybe even a little more than that. Fighting is way down in the league, but it still has a place. It's still important. And I think this kid is really dedicating himself now to try to really work on that part of his game. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, he should learn how to skate and do all this other stuff. I'm not going to hear and throw dirt on the kid. He got his chance on the Rangers, kind of stuck around as the enforcer. I'm sure he's going to work on other parts of his game as well and hope to be an everyday player and not be healthy scratched and keep his roster spot for every game. But I commend the kid for working on this. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's a thug, this and that. Listen, I think he made a lot of mistakes early on. I think he is a hot-headed kid. I think he's done a lot of cheap shots, and I thought they were deplorable, to be perfectly honest. But I realize that he is young, inexperienced, and I do like what he was bringing to the game. He was trying to bring back some big hitting, that fourth line grind mentality, change the momentum of a game with a big hit or dropping the gloves. And a lot of people were gunning for him early on. I mean, he fought some really tough guys. He fought some really, really tough guys, and he got, his clock cleaned in most of them. but people are wondering why he's doing this. And again, it's going to always be part of his game. He realizes that now he has a name for himself and people are going to be coming for him. And we just look at a chart here. I'll share all the details in the description of this list where it came. SportsHandle came out with the best and worst NHL fighters of 23-24. And we see near the very bottom, with 5 fights and only credited with 1 win, Matt Rempe with a 20% win percentage. You see him there at number 38. 5 fights and only 1 win. Obviously, he wants that to change. Obviously, not only is it just bad to lose fights for morale and things, but you could take serious punishment. And I'm not going to go into the history of guys and, long-term effects of fighting and blah, blah, blah. But it's well documented, and you can get hurt in the short term and the long term by taking these blows to the head. Obviously, it helps now that they can't take the helmet off. That's kind of one of the many measures that have gone into reducing fighting in the league. But it's here to stay, guys. Whether you like it or not, and I don't understand for the life of me how you wouldn't like it personally. I mean, I think it's kind of shocking. But hockey is a violent sport. There's a lot of violent gentlemen playing. They're skating around at 20 miles per hour plus with weapons in their hand, and sometimes things are going to get chippy. That's a part of the game. Players policing the game will always be a part of it. I will die on that hill. I'm sorry to all the anti-violence, anti-fighting people. It's not like we're seeing 17 fights a game. Fighting is way, way down. You don't see it very often. And when you do, it's a very special treat. A very special treat when you see an NHL tilt. And there's a time and place for it. And I believe firmly that will always be the case in our beautiful sport of hockey. But we go up the list a little bit. And these are the guys at 21-30. I'm not going to read the whole list, but I'll leave the graphic up there. You can see all these guys with how many fights they had, how many wins, and then it gives them their win percentage. And now we get into that 11 to 20 range. A lot of familiar names here. Ryan Reeves with 5 wins and 7 fights for a 71% win percentage. Former New Jersey Devil and a guy I always loved ever since we had him, Pat Maroon. I wish we had gotten him back for a year or two at some point. He had 6 fights with 4 wins for a 67% win percentage. And then we keep going down the list here. Nikita Zadorov, a guy I desperately wanted in free agency. 5 fights with 3 wins. And they're at number 20. Our newest violent gentleman, our hard-hitting, often-hitting, physical specimen on the blue line, Brenden Dillon, coming in at number 20 with 7 fights and 4 victories for a 57% win percentage. And then we get into the top 10. And the top 10 has a lot of familiar names as well. I'll just highlight a couple of them. My dream unicorn, New Jersey Devil, that we hopefully see one day, Brady Tkachuk. 6 fights with 5 wins for an 83% win percentage. Tom Wilson, 5 for 5 in the number 3 spot at 100%. Curtis McDermott, the toughest man in the National. Curtis McDermott, 5 for 5 with a spotless, flawless, 100% win percentage. The toughest man in the National, per Mike Rupp. 5 for 5 for Curtis McDermott. Love to see him at the top of the list there. And Nicolas Deslauriers, 11 fights, 11 wins. What a tough man he is, also with a 100% win percentage. But the reason I felt like this was necessary to talk about is that I have been preaching physicality, grit, sandpaper, fisticuffs, everything for months on this channel. You guys all know where I stand with all that stuff. I think it's desperately needed in a lineup to have any sort of consistent success, especially in the playoffs when things get even chippier. We saw in the first round of the playoffs, Brad Marchand came out in an interview with the media. It may have been in the second round, but he told the whole media scrum, tons of reporters and microphones in his face. He straight up said that in the playoffs, guys are trying to injure guys. They're trying to knock guys out of the lineup on the other side. That is what these guys do to win. The playoffs is absolute war. And if you don't realize that, it's time for you to do your homework, do some research, and understand that what I'm telling you is fact. This is fact. Guys are trying to win at all costs. Knocking other guys out physically is part of it. And he told you, this is a star player telling everyone in the world that this is what teams are doing. And so you need to have the McDermotts in your lineup. You need to have the other scrappier forwards that are willing to drop the gloves when necessary, like Cotter and Lazar on occasion. Whoever it may be, you just need these guys in your lineup because they're necessary, and especially when you have a lot of younger guys that aren't going to embrace that sort of game. Jack Hughes and Nico, and Jesper Bratt, those aren't the kind of guys that you want to see drop the gloves. And we've seen time and time again last year, Nemitz, Luke Hughes, guys getting completely trucked, no answer, and teams were just battering us up and down the ice, and it can't stand. And so now we have that physical element up and down our lineup. You will not see us get bullied around, but we're not the only ones. Everyone's trying to get heavier, edgier, more violent. And our arch rival, arch nemesis, across the river, Matt Rempe, is training in fighting. I have to say, I love to see it. This kid is really trying to hone the craft, trying to take less damage and get better at that part of his game. Yes, he has lots of other things to work on in his game as well, but I do think the kid overall, when he's not doing cheap shots and he's under control somewhat, is good for the sport. It is exciting. He brought a lot of eyeballs to hockey, during that brief run in the beginning when he was just fighting all the time, was making sports headlines, and he was like a media sensation for a minute, and good for him. But we have to make sure that next year he gets what he has coming to him. And I believe next season, man, I really believe we're going to see a lot of scraps with this kid. I really do. And he's going to have to go up against the toughest man in the National. Curtis McDermott is a scary, scary man. And I absolutely love the fact that he is on our New Jersey Devils. Just go look at this guy. Man, people don't even want to fight him. It's like, why would you even? It's a guaranteed loss for the most part. I mean, I think if with the mentality going in for any of these guys in a fight with Curtis McDermott is basically try to hold on and don't get killed. I think that's the game plan because there's not much else you could do. And he's so calm and reserved. Like, you see a lot of guys show a lot of emotion during the fights. Curtis McDermott is a straight killer. You just see the blank stare, and he's just very methodical. An absolute bull of a man. I was ecstatic when we got him. I'm ecstatic we paid him. A lot of people cried about that. Give that man his money. He is protection. Keep the guys feeling loose and good about their game. And people aren't going to be taking those liberties anymore because now we have the heavyweight champ in McDermott, and we got a lot of those middleweight type guys like Cotter, Lazar, and some other guys that are not scared to drop the gloves. Dillon even. And so we're going to see it. Next season, things are going to get chippy, and we're going to go to war. And so wrapping up here, I do think that this should be a further kind of telltale sign that physicality is going nowhere. Guys are really leaning into it and embracing it. Our arch rival across the river is training and fighting. And back in the day, I've seen on the South Mountain Arena, the old practice rink, I saw Christoph Oliwa, one of my favorite Devils enforcers of all time, 2000 Stanley Cup champion. Shout out to Mr. Oliwa. I watched him on the ice with a fighting instructor similar to what you're seeing with Laraque and Rempe. If you want to be good at this and you do not want to take damage, you will do these types of training exercises. And so for all the people bashing him and all the stuff, I hate to defend a Rangers player, but here I am doing it. The kid is really trying to get better, and I respect it. I totally respect it. He took a lot of damage from a lot of heavyweight guys last year, and he knows he's going to be answering the bell at points throughout next season and in his career, and so he's trying to get better at it. I'm not knocking the kid for it. I think more guys should look to dive into maybe specific skills within their game, whether that's, fighting like Rempe, maybe puck control. Some guys work with Adam Oates in the offseason. I always admire players looking to get better and doing extra and going above and beyond. This is an example of that, and I'm very excited for next year. That first Devils-Rangers game, we don't get it for quite a while. I believe it's in December, but that one is going to be must-see TV. The latest chapter in the Hudson River Rivalry. We are going to war, guys. We are going to war, and I hope that's like our rally cry for the year, honestly. Every game we should just embrace like war. A lot of times you see half-ass efforts and, lackadaisical kind of play in the regular season. And Tom Fitzgerald said it in a press conference, I think a few weeks ago. We need to embrace every game like it's the playoffs. We cannot let points get away, and we need to make sure that we get back to where we need to be. I am not going to be happy with just the playoff berth. I've said in my previous video, I believe we win at least one playoff round. I would love to see us win it all, and I don't think that's that crazy to say, but who knows what the season has in store, but I do expect a great season from the Devils. We're not going to get battered around, and that's it. Heavier, edgier, more violent, but just take note, everyone, that we're not the only ones trying to embrace heavier, edgier, more violent, because Rempe's doing it too, with George Laraque on the ice. Interesting stuff, and that's all I got to say about that. It's going to be an interesting season. We're going to see a lot of scuffles. A lot of scuffles with that man throw anything out there in the comments about what you think about all of this. Anything Devils hockey. You know your boy's always here talking Devils hockey. Anything that comes up. Doing a live later tonight at 8 o'clock. Hope to see some of you there. And, yeah, I'll take some live calls and chat with the fans. It'll be a good time. Bring a beverage or 3 or 6. And that's all I have for you now. I will talk to you all soon. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.